Welcome back to the NFL NBA Rectable. This time on the NFL edition, we're going to be talking about Brett Favre, the big news in the NFL still because there's nothing else really. Okay, so sort of an update on the situation. As far as we know, well, he definitely did not report to Packers training camp. Apparently, he has signed a letter seeking his reinstatement, but has not yet sent it into the NFL, contingent on, whether or not the Packers management is going to trade him. No one really knows for sure. Alright, so it's just an absolute mess. Check ESPN for all of their, sources and reports. We have really no idea what the situation is. But with this whole just circus going around, alright, Kevin, what do you think needs to be done now to resolve this situation?
Well, I think the Packers need to trade Brett Favre because obviously Brett Favre wants to play in the league this year. And he's not going to be playing with the Packers. The whole thing with him and Ted Thompson is just really blown any chance of Favre returning in the green and gold totally out of the water. I think ideally for Brett Favre, he gets traded. If not, he gets released. But there is no way he's going to be a Green Bay Packer this coming season. All
right, so then going off of that, how do you think that this whole situation has sort of been handled from both sides? I know that you have your own issue, feelings about certain things, but do you think that management has to own up to a bigger role in this, or Brett Favre perhaps himself? Who do you think this really boils down to is just creating this sort of mess?
Well, Brett Favre created the monster from the get-go when he said he wanted to retire way back in March. The Packers management back in March were ready to have him come back and be their starter when Brett Favre was thinking about possibly coming back. They were ready to fly out to Mississippi and visit Brett Favre and his wife, and Brett Favre said, "No, my wife and I talked over it. I'm going to stay retired." Now July comes around, training camp right around the corner, and Brett Favre has a change of heart. They have already handed the keys to the franchise over to Aaron Rodgers. And Brett Favre decides that, I think at a very inopportune time, that he wants to come back. Now management has misplayed their cards a little bit recently. They were saying that Brett Favre could come back and compete for his job or be a backup at first. And now, after this recent talk with Ted Thompson, that's not even an option anymore. But if Brett Favre would have just said back in March that he wants to come back, none of this would be an issue right now.
Yeah, I do have to agree with you. I did think that, at first it seemed like Favre was being a little selfish. These past couple of years, he's already been holding that franchise sort of hostage these past couple of years. Every year waiting to see, well, is Brett going to come back? Is he going to retire? I mean, Aaron Rodgers was selected 3 years ago now. He's going into his 4th season. So that's how far back it goes that Green Bay was thinking that, oh, Brett Favre might not be around anymore. He might not want to play. So they've been trying to prepare for that ever since. But I do agree. Recently, in these past couple of weeks, the Packers organization has sort of mishandled how this situate the Brett Favre issue. But looking at it from a purely football perspective, then, do you think that the Packers really need to get Brett Favre back to maintain their ability to be Super Bowl contenders in the NFC? They were one Brett Favre interception away last year from going to the Super Bowl. Do you think that if they re-signed him again, they'd be in that same spot?
I'm really not sold on Brett Favre having a 2008 the way he played in 2007, because the year before in 2006 he was not playing well at all, a lot of interceptions, and 2007 was more of a renaissance year for him. I don't know if he can have that type of year, and I think it's time to give the reins to Aaron Rodgers. He's only thrown 59 passes in 3 seasons. He's completed 35 of those. That's good for almost 60%. And yeah, they might not be as good, but it's the NFC, and anyone can win in the NFC. All 16 teams, as bad as they are, some of them, can compete for a playoff spot.
Yeah, I think that the biggest thing, though, to me, the biggest issue is that the Packers need to get Ryan Grant into training camp. Holding out, wanting a new contract, not there with him. I think that towards the end of the season, he was really the one that was the linchpin to that offense because, that running game towards the end of the season, especially in the playoffs, what they always mention, defense and a solid running game is what gets you to the playoffs and to the Super Bowl. So I think that without Ryan Grant, it doesn't matter who's their quarterback. Brett Favre might be able to carry them a bit like he did towards the beginning of last year if he plays out of his mind once again. But towards, you could see by the end that it wasn't going to work for them. They're not as stacked as the New England Patriots are, where you can get away with not running the football at all. But I think that, Aaron Rodgers, I think he has potential to be a really good quarterback. The biggest problem is he just hasn't gotten the chance. I think in the grand scheme of things, I really feel for him because Aaron Rodgers has just been placed in an absolutely untenable situation. It already was going to be bad enough. He had to follow the legend. No one wants to do that. He never was going to be able to live up to Brett Favre's legend, but now, with this whole situation, he's saying all the right things. Give him tons of credit for that, but someone needs to resolve this situation, I feel, just to get that monkey off of his back. He needs to know what the deal is, because it is absolutely ridiculous, the situation that Aaron Rodgers is being put in right now.
Definitely. I would not envy Aaron Rodgers one bit. And it was already bad enough for him on draft day when he dropped to that number 24 position. He was the second best quarterback in that draft, and we were thinking he could possibly be a top 10 pick. And he dropped all the way to the end of the first round. And to the Green Bay Packers, out of all teams, like you mentioned, having to follow the legend in Brett Favre, and who knows if the fans are going to be on his side. We've seen some recent rallies supporting Brett Favre, and I'm just afraid that maybe Green Bay is going to boo this guy when he takes the field opening day.
Well, the one thing he does have going for him is that those rallies that you mentioned sort of died out a little bit. I think the first one had like 200-some people. The second one only had 30 to 50. Granted, it was a weekday, people got to work and all of that sort of thing. But it's not like the entire city came out in outrage, which I think a lot of people were expecting with how revered Brett Favre is in Green Bay. But definitely at some point, the Packers just need to hand this over to Aaron Rodgers and get this fixed. But really, they need to either just trade or release Brett Favre at this point, because even though he might have overplayed his hand a little bit to begin with, the Packers just need to get rid of this situation. So we have no idea really what's going on, so keep it tuned for that. If anything comes resolved, we'll definitely talk about it next week. But that's it for now. Check us out next week on the NFL NBA Rectable.